When I first saw the Barbie movie last week, I was struck by all the connections to having new conversations about abortion in our churches, conversations that are not political and that are really centered in God's equal value for all people. Now, you may or may not have seen the movie, and you may be wondering how I could make those connections. I just recorded a podcast with a dear friend, and so that will be out next Tuesday, August 15th. I encourage you to join us for that conversation. But I just was impacted by the film because it was personal for me. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I'm still a woman today leading in an environment where maybe that isn't always the case. And so a lot of the experiences of women in the film, I could connect to. I actually think that's an important conversation piece for those of us in the church. And I wanted to speak to the importance of both men and women seeing the film, from my opinion, and not letting the controversy keep us from engaging in this cultural moment. I know a lot of people say the film is political. I didn't see that in the film either time that I saw it. There's definitely some different worldviews. And obviously, anytime we see a film, it just because we don't agree with some of it doesn't mean there aren't some really beautiful things in it. That's the thing about art. It can touch us in certain places. We don't have to agree with everything. And I felt that way about the film. There was just so much that resonated with me because it's art, because they were able to just really creatively illustrate what a Barbie land would be like and illustrate what it would be to enter the real world from that I think is really important for this reason. I think one thing that blocks us from having better conversations about abortion is we have absorbed some messages from our culture for thousands of years in terms of how men and women should relate to each other and who's more important and how we listen to each other. That's just stuff that we don't even realize we've internalized, but it's there from the time we're very little. And I have seen that in my experience block men and women from really working together in the best ways we could to listen to women facing abortion and men as well, and bring this conversation into a kingdom conversation. Instead, we tend to categorize it like our culture does and fight about it from those ways, but also view men and women from those lenses. And I think it's important for us as Christian men and women to go see the movie, to not be dissuaded by the people saying it's too political, and to go with an open mind and heart from a posture of really just listening to someone's experience. And for my husband and I, he came with me, it just facilitated ways of me telling him stories he'd never heard about what I experienced growing up and messages I heard about a woman with my gifts or my personality or my place in society. And it was a great conversation. So I just wanted to say that we're going to be putting that podcast out there. So if you haven't already seen the film, I do recommend it. And I hope you'll join us for the podcast conversation.